And we welcome you inside a jam-packed Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor for a highly anticipated early season matchup in the Big 12. Michigan, one of 3 remaining undefeated teams in the country after Nevada's lost last night, and the Indiana Hoosiers, as they are ready to do battle. This could very well be the deepest field we've seen in the Big 10 in more than a decade, as you see where these two teams sit, both 3-0. As we are just about ready, Spiro Thetis alongside Clark Kellogg. Clark, here we go. 2 of the best freshmen in the conference, maybe the country. What are you expecting early on?
Well, for Indiana, it's about taking care of the ball so they can get into offense. For Michigan, can they stay unbeaten in conference play by continuing to be a superb defensive team?
John Teske will step into the center circle, and Justin Smith for IU as Michigan controls with Xavier Simpson. And we are underway here in Ann Arbor. What a great scene here between 2 programs that know each other awfully well. There is Simpson wheeling his way to the basket to get the party started for Michigan.
He does such a good job of probing and keeping that dribble alive. Got all the way to the rack right there.
One lineup note for the Wolverines: Isaiah Livers, who did not play in their last game with back spasms, is in uniform, although we have been told by Michigan that he is doubtful for this game. And meantime, as we get a foul here in the transition against Romeo Langford, the super freshman. Still no Rob Finney for the Hoosiers. As you see Livers on the Michigan bench, Finney still in the concussion protocol. Another, speaking of impressive freshman, still not ready to return.
On his way to recovery, though, is hoping to be back within the week or so.
Here is Jordan Poole. This kid has been lights out over the last couple of weeks. 4-0 Michigan. And we welcome those of you that have been watching the NFL postseason matchup. The Los Angeles Chargers advancing with that big win in Baltimore. Spiro Thetis, Clark Kellogg, rest of our CBS crew here from Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor. A Michigan team that has lost exactly once over the last 11 months. And that, of course, coming in the national championship game to Villanova in San Antonio. Matthews is tripped up in the lane, and another foul against Indiana. We mentioned the lineup change for Michigan. Isaiah Livers is on the bench, is in uniform. He did not play in their last game earlier this week with back spasms. We've been told by Michigan that his status is doubtful for this game, so we'll see how John Beilein handles it. In the meantime, you saw for the Hoosiers, Al Durham continues to start with Devontae Green as their freshman Rob Finney still not ready to return from the concussion. Shot clock down to 10. This is Simpson probing the defense. Now to big John Teske off the back of the rim, and the rebound by Green. Clark, one thing about Michigan, they're always good offensively under John Beilein, but this has become one of the elite defensive teams in the country.
In part because they have elite perimeter defenders in Charles Matthews and Xavier Simpson. They very rarely get beat by the guy they're guarding.
That's Morgan, and the putback dunk by Smith. Nasty follow. And how about that to get the Hoosiers their first points?
They needed it. They had turned it over on the first possession and hadn't really gotten a quality shot in their next 2 trips. That's about as high quality as you can get throwing one down off the miss.
One of the impressive athletes, certainly in the Big Ten. Here comes Ignas Brazdeikis, the highly skilled freshman.
He's got a bunch in his package. That time went to the right hand off the drive. Tough shot there by Green, but he can make some of those. And talking to Archie Miller prior to the game, he said, we've got to make sure we get the ball swung side to side and not take too many tough twos. That's one that went down, but that's not the kind of shot he wants early in the offense.
3rd straight start for Devontae Green in the absence of the freshman Finney. And they need a big game from him. This is Matthews, corner 3. That's good. Matthews starting to come on of late. Last 5 games, averaging 15 points for Michigan. Had that terrific run to start his NCAA tournament bid before it kind of went south on him in that final game against Villanova. Here is Langford knifing into the paint. Some contact at the rim, no call. And then last touched out of bounds by Matthews.
Boy, nice explosive move that time by Langford, just unable to finish. Boy, he's been on a tear of late. Terrific all-around talent as Romeo Langford can handle it, drive it. Mid-range game is solid and also has grown defensively in the last 2 months for the Hoosiers.
Scored a career-high 28 points in their victory over Illinois on Thursday. This is Green, not even close. And the offensive rebound by Smith. Shot clock resets, goes right back to Green, and he goes glass. Second bucket for Devontae Green, the junior out of Long Island, New York. And it's a three-point game. Michigan at this end has hit 4 of their first 5 shots. Offensive efficiency, the name of the game here on the D-line, is Poole is foul. Looks like it's on Durham. That'll be his first on the reach-in.
Got a lot of that pumpkin, too. The officials deemed he got some arm as well.
It's actually on Juwan Morgan, Clark, and that's his second. So
wow.
Huge call early in this game.
That is.
I was just going to say that, for Indiana to have a chance to pull the upset today, Morgan's going to have a big day, but that is a monstrous call against Indiana less than 4 minutes into this game.
It really is. Already depleted are the Hoosiers. You mentioned Fennessy.
Look at Matthews, and a chance at a three-point play as he explodes to the rack.
Well, straight line drive. That time, Langford not in a stance. And Matthews took full advantage, escorted to the rack, hoop and harm. And Michigan off to a very, very strong offensive start.
And that is personal foul number 2 against Langford.
Wow, I talked about turnovers being a key issue, but 2 fouls on your top 2 scorers, and we haven't even hit the first media timeout. That could be crippling to the Hoosiers.
Well, free throws could be the only weakness once again for this Michigan team. Matthews only at 61% on the season. Clifton Moore and Zach McRoberts have checked in for the Hoosiers. Where does Indiana turn to here with a lot of inexperienced players in a very tough environment on the road? What about that shot? Al Durham from deep.
He's their best free three-point shooter percentage-wise, and he's continuing to improve. You see a beautiful stroke there. Hey, one guy goes down, 2 guys go down. That means somebody else has to step up. And nice look that time from Durham.
Durham, the sophomore, was recruited to Bloomington by Tom Crean. Decided to honor his commitment after Crean was let go, and that is Poole from downtown. Michigan just keeps on coming from deep. 5-point lead. We're just under 5 minutes gone by. McRoberts called for a travel.
This young fella is a star in the making. Jordan Poole from deep. Mark it up.
Back in Ann Arbor, let's take a look at our AT&T fast analysis.
Well, it's all about spacing, having skilled players on the floor and making that ball hop. The defense can't chase it, and you get quality looks. Michigan off to an 8-E start. Highly efficient. 6 of 7 field goals made, and +5 on the scoreboard for the Wolverines.
Clark, it's been nearly a full calendar year since John Beilein's Wolverines lost the game in this building January 9th of last year. It's a loss to Purdue. 16 straight victories, but the obvious concern now for Archie Miller and Indiana, the foul trouble to his 2 top players. Juwan Morgan had to sit less than 3 minutes into the game, and then the super freshman Langford. So some precarious minutes here for Indiana.
Yeah, that's 34 points a game, plus a lot of your playmaking ability with those 2 guys sitting down. That means Indiana has to be very solid defensively and trust each other even more with the pass on offense. This kid is on the rip,
playing with a confidence
oh my goodness,
that has been fun to watch. 8 points for Poole.
He's been 9 straight in double digits, shooting 50% from the floor, from the 3 in Big Ten play. Actually, he's 64, 50%, and 90% in conference games.
Matthews, quick hands. A foot race with Smith trying to beat him, and had it Matthews finish that play going glass. 10-point game. You see the run from Michigan. They've scored 8 straight, and it has happened in a hurry. Here's Green, the Long Island kid. Too much. Rebound, Brazdakis.
That's a little quick. Got to try to move the ball against this tough, stingy Michigan defense. And I tell you what, Archie Miller might have to think about getting one of his 2 stars back on the floor, even with those 2 fouls, Spiro. Because this thing could get out of control quickly.
Has to be going through Archie's mind at this point. Here is Brazdakis, who has been so impressive his first couple of months as a collegiate. Knocked out of bounds, and right now everything going the way of Michigan. Well, by far the biggest test that Archie Miller's Hoosiers have had to face. A program that won 16 games last season, trying to get to the top of the Big Ten. Of course, taking over for Tom Crean, as we mentioned. Have to like the steps that they continue to take, but we'll know a whole lot more about where this team sits after this one ends today.
Yeah, and they've got to get hold, too. There's a good look.
Beautiful find. Austin Davis quickly putting his imprint on this game. Timeout, Indiana. Tuesday on CBS, the new year takes the team on their biggest manhunt yet. Don't miss the new hit drama, FBI, all new Tuesday after NCIS on CBS. Spiro Ditas, Clark Kellogg, rest of our CBS crew. As Archie Miller, Clark wasting no time, he will reinsert both Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan as they have quickly fallen into a 12-point hole.
Yeah, nothing to lose. I mean, you got to cast your bread on the water here. You don't want to let this thing get out of hand with your 2 best players sitting down and another turnover. And you're not going to catch him.
Well, turnovers have been a weakness for Archie Miller's Hoosiers, averaging close to 15 per game. That's 256 out of 353 teams in Division I.
But in the 2 losses on the road, they've had 22 more turnovers than the opposition. And already a handful have led to a number of easy buckets, actually a couple of easy buckets. There you see Charles Matthews there shooting the gap. A slow, telegraphed pass and easy pickings for Matthews.
Michigan, 3rd best defense in terms of points allowed in the country, averaging a touch over 55 per game. As Indiana trying to figure it out here. Langford, a little hesitation, couldn't put it down. Offensive rebound, Morgan, contact, no call. And he misses an easy deuce. Hoosiers just trying to weather the storm here, down 14 points. Simpson will get the Wolverines reset. Here he comes down the paint. Brazdakis open. And the rebound corralled by Green.
Well, you love that execution, though. Penetrate, on balance, and find an open shooter when the defense collapses.
Whistle blown here off the ball with Green holding on the wing. Well, just to give you an idea of how critical these 2 players are for Indiana, Langford and Morgan, look at what they've done. Morgan, of course, only the 2nd triple-double in IU history earlier this season, has been one of the best players in the country.
And both of these guys are willing passers as well. So they're more important than just the numbers. They make it easier for their teammates when they're out there.
Here comes Morgan, desperately trying to get his game going, and misses again.
He's had 2 good looks at it the last 2 trips. Just overshot both of them.
Indiana off to their best start in 6 years. Their win over Illinois Thursday was their 7th straight. It's their longest winning streak in 3 years. But as we mentioned, this by far the biggest test that they have faced this season. Here's Morgan, wants to take Teskey. Has to win that matchup, and he goes to the left hand.
I love what he did there. Missed his first couple with the left and went right back to it. That's a senior who's confident and who's been playing at an All-America level.
First points for IU in more than 4 minutes. Just over the 11-minute mark first half. Eli Brooks has checked in for the Wolverines. Here's Teskey. He's gotten much better, Clark, with that low post game.
He sure has, Spiro, and that's a prime example there. Nothing rushed about that attempt. Knew he had a smaller defender on him. Took him for a ride with his lower body and then got right into his jump hook.
Back up last year to Mo Wagner, but a huge bump in his minutes and role this season. Look at Langford exploding to the cup for his first points.
Well, he's eel-like in his ability to stay low and then burst to the rim off 1 or 2 dribbles.
Here comes Simpson. That is too easy for Michigan as he easily goes right through the defense. Everything working for Michigan. The Wolverines are 12 of 15 from the field. There comes Langford going glass. Smith kind of mistimed the jump. And a man advantage for the Wolverines. This is Poole. He'll reset. Matthews from deep. And right now, Michigan eating Indiana's lunch. 12 points from Matthews, who has yet to miss. 5 for 5.
You know, he had come in struggling in his last few games because of foul trouble, Spiro. And you could just feel that he was ready for a breakout game as Indiana smothered defensively that time by the Wolverines. Charles Matthews having what we like to call a volcanic eruption, knocking down threes, and Michigan rolling.
CBS Sports college basketball coverage is sponsored by Ford. Built Ford proud. Bud Light, enjoyed by giant blue fictional nights everywhere. And by AT&T, more for your thing, that's our thing. Oh, what a great scene here inside Chrysler Center. Just under 13,000, standing room only for Michigan and Indiana, 2 of the blue bloods in college basketball. But right now, Clark Kellogg, it is all going Michigan's way. 19-4 run over the last 5:37.
One of my favorite venues in all of college basketball. I've not been to every venue, but I've been to a number of the outstanding ones. And this is as good as it gets for intimacy, luxury, energy of the crowd, and coming from a Buckeye, even the fight song adds to the great environment here. And this team is championship caliber without doubt.
Oh, good play drawn up there in the timeout by Archie Miller. That'll get Morgan to the free throw line as Austin Davis is charged for his second. And how Indiana navigates through this kind of a stretch, very telling in terms of where this team is year 2 under Miller in Bloomington. So here's Morgan at the free throw line. The senior out of Waynesville, Missouri. Slow start for Morgan today. But so Clark has methodically put together one of the great careers in the history of Indiana basketball. What do you miss when sports networks cover news and highlights without the hot takes? Stream CBS Sports HQ, the free 24/7 sports network for highlights, analysis, and fantasy advice. Download the CBS Sports app to watch CBS Sports HQ today.
Boy, he misses 2 free throws there, and when you're trying to come back and derail the team's momentum, you've got to make your free throws. I mean, that's just critical. Michigan's so good at spacing the floor, and this kid has been making plays. Short-armed that one, but Jordan Poole is a star in the making, folks. Got tremendous skill and a work ethic that leads me to believe he'll be all league, if not this year, certainly in the near future.
Morgan, he's 1 of 7. That time, the freshman Brandon Johns Jr. on his back couldn't win that matchup. Not sure Indiana could have much of a chance if Morgan continues to struggle like this.
Agreed.
Here comes Brooks knifing into the paint. Brasdek is such a smart player, going backdoor with the cut, but couldn't finish. Langford and Morgan have combined to shoot 2 of 11, make it 2 of 12 as Langford misses glass.
And that's been the issue in the games on the road that this team has played, road and neutral court for Indiana.
Here comes Judge, going glass. The young man whom John Beeline went into East Lansing and recruited away from Tom Izzo in Michigan State. I like his talent. What a find. Durham to Morgan. And a chance at a 3-point play.
Well done that time by Indiana. The quick hit before the Michigan defense got fully set. Penetration and pitch by Durham. And Morgan able to get himself back to the line with an and-one chance. Sometimes you get those early fouls, Spiro, as a player. It just forces you to press a little more when you come back into the game and the deficit is double digits, as was the case here today. Michigan just so solid and efficient thus far.
Brosdakis has to sit for Michigan, picks up his second as Morgan completes the three-point play, so it's a 16-point game as Morgan will take his seat. If you've just joined us, Morgan picked up his second personal just a couple of minutes into the game. He sat for a good stretch, as did Romeo Langford about a minute later, but Archie Miller, sensing his team was about to get blown out, reinserted both players as they try to stem the tide. Here comes Poole, putting it all on display. Magical play by Poole. He's got 10. He has doubled his offensive output from a year ago. Of course, hit that huge shot against Houston in the second round of the NCAA tournament to put himself on the map. That's Durham, off balance, tough shot.
Another tough two. You can't live on those. But you'll take them when they come, when you're trailing like the Hoosiers are. Look at the spacing here, Spiro. Two guys in the middle, and then everybody else kind of flat and spread out.
There's Simpson on a corner three short. Rare miss for the Wolverines. And knocked around, and Johns gets the Wolverines a fresh 30.
Yeah, he beat two Indiana Hoosiers to that ball. Great work by Johns.
Matthews. John Beilein sat down his freshman Johns yesterday for a kind of a lengthy one-on-one chat to try to get his game going. And so far, a good start for the freshman from East Lansing.
He's got a full quiver of moves and ability. Jordan Poole.
No Michigan behind John Beilein putting on a shooting clinic so far. You see the score as we take a look at our Jersey Mike's game summary back here inside Chrysler Center. All Michigan till this point. Spiro Ditas and Clark Kellogg. Clark, a lot of folks around the country seeing Michigan for the first time. One of three undefeateds left in the country, wondering if this team finally ready to take that next step.
Well, they very much are one of the top teams in the country, clearly. Defensively, they're outstanding. And today we've seen how efficient and effective they can be offensively. 68% shooting thus far, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. And they capitalize on turnovers. Indiana only has 4 turnovers, but Michigan has 9 points off those 4 turnovers. So they've not left any cheese on the turnover line.
Told you about just this astounding run that the Wolverines have been on over the last 11 months. 28-1 in their last 29 games. Their only loss, of course, coming to Villanova, the national championship game. As you see John Beilein, year 12 here in Ann Arbor. What an incredible run it has been for him. A win today would get Michigan to 15-0 for only the 3rd time in the illustrious history of this program. Here's Morgan backing down Teskey. Morgan has really struggled to this point. Langford is there and has his back.
Now, if you're Michigan, it's been pretty easy pickings thus far. You want to continue to execute at both ends, not allow Indiana to make a surge here as we move towards halftime.
Simpson again probing the defense, defended by Green, now to Brooks. Shot clock at 10. Brooks knifing into the paint, outside the Johns. 5 on the timer. Matthews. What a matchup with Langford. Green bothers him. And that is a shot clock violation. What a job by Green at the end of that sequence. Only the 2nd Michigan turnover.
Small bites if you're Indiana. They forced 6 shot clock violations, you see, in that game against Illinois the last time the Hoosiers were on the hardwood.
Michigan, as has always been the case under Beilein, one of the low turnover teams in the country. 9.6, 5th fewest per game in college basketball. As Indiana continues to be careless with it, their 5th turnover. And I'm just not sure what has come over Morgan so far, Clark. Really ragged start to this game.
Yep, missed some easy ones. I think some of that you might attribute to the foul trouble, Spiro. You get a little bit out of rhythm, but he's a senior and should be able to work himself back into the game. And there you see Archie Miller having a conversation with him, perhaps asking him to tone down just a notch.
Wooden Award candidate, one of the top 50 players in the country. Soldier has really put together one of the great careers in the history of this program. And you think about all the greats that have come through Bloomington, that's saying something. As Teskey couldn't squeeze it, but able to find Poole in the corner. Shot clock down to 9. Poole wants to take Durham. Into the paint. Showing the complete arsenal. He's got a dozen. He didn't start a single game last season. But Jordan Poole, as Clark mentioned earlier, becoming one of the stars in college basketball. Crowd wanted a whistle. Here comes Green. Matthews so good with his on-ball defense, but boy, Green giving the Hoosiers some offense that they desperately need.
Yeah, they need buckets, and Green can go get them. But you have to be able to guard the Michigan team individually, and this is a tough matchup for Roberts. Good job there staying in front that time.
Such a gritty kid, the walk-on for Indiana. Look at Simpson. Boy, we've seen that shot this season.
Yeah, he works on it. We watched him work on it yesterday in practice, so it's no accident when it finds the bottom of the net.
Call that kind of a little quasi-hook?
Yeah, it is a hook, old school hook. We call that the sweeping hook. And you typically don't see guards shoot it in this day and age.
He certainly added that to his arsenal. This is Evan Fitzner from deep.
Yeah, he's got a nice stroke, and that was right on line, just hard.
Graduate transfer from St. Mary's out in California. Was a terrific three-point shooter for them in his 3 years out west. This is Brooks, a little bit short. Matthews, back-breaking. "14 points for Charles Matthews, the redshirt senior out of Chicago." And Matthews and Poole now 26 of Michigan's 38 points. Fitzner bottled up, and this will be a hold away from the ball. Justin Smith was held on the box as we'll get a break.
Charles Matthews doing it all. Pulling down that loose rebound and going easily to the rim.
Well, it is a party here in Ann Arbor. 16-point lead for the Wolverines. A Wednesday night on CBS Sports Network, a Big East showdown where number 16 Marquette takes on Creighton at 7 Eastern. Then at 11, number 6 Nevada will take on San Jose State. Speaking of Nevada, what a shocker last night as they go down to New Mexico. Upset win for Paul Weir and the Lobos. So only 3 undefeateds left, including, of course, Michigan, Tony Bennett, and Virginia off to a 13-0 start. Perennial powerhouse under Bennett, and Houston. As Houston about to tip in about 45 minutes, Clark, against Memphis, another team on the rise again in college basketball.
Yeah, new head coach Penny Hardaway, Calvin Sampson, longtime collegiate coach, has the Cougars rolling early on. Take a look at the numbers between Poole and Matthews. You can't get much more efficient than that, and that includes some three-point makes as well. These two guys are a dynamic duo, and Michigan as a team understands those guys should be getting the bulk of the shots.
Here's Morgan, the senior, trying to take the lid off his game. Nicely done off the inbounds and the timeout. There's Morgan now with 7.
Yeah, nice job that time by Jawan Morgan. He's an excellent driver and finisher typically, although he's missed a couple here in the first half. And you're just trying to win this last 3 minutes if you're Indiana. Somehow, some way, keep this from mushrooming from 14 to 20 and see if you can chop it to 10 or less.
Matthews, shot clock down to 5. Just kind of pulled the string on it, got it back, and then is fouled. It's on Durham. Clark, Indiana's had some good defensive sets where they've allowed an offensive rebound, and it has really kind of broken their backs. They're still in a 14-point hole.
Yeah, it's not a sentence unless you put a period on it, Spiro, nor is it a completed defensive play unless you rebound the ball. And you're right, a couple of times it's been backbreaking for the Hoosiers. They've gotten a stop, forced a miss, but haven't corralled the defensive rebound.
So here's Matthews, just under 14 points per game. The Kentucky transfer who played sparingly under John Calipari, elected to transfer, and what a decision it's turned out to be. The Chicago kid hoping that he and the Wolverines can take that next step. something they were so close to achieving last year. 33 victories for Michigan, a school record here in Ann Arbor. That's, of course, ultimately falling short in San Antonio against Villanova.
Well, his shot looks so good. He's a lethal mid-range shooter and has shown you the three-point shot and typically struggles at the line, but no problems there. And we know he's an elite perimeter defender.
Morgan denied by Teske.
That's something Teske really does well. He's excellent at walling up, bodying up, extending and challenging the shot without fouling.
Matthews crossover, misses the long two, and a physical rebound by Morgan. Here's Durham, finds his spot, a little bit short, rebound Matthews. Indiana just 11 of 27 from the field. Pulls pass deflected by Durham. Simpson takes with still plenty to shoot. Simpson, Teske wide open, and Green no choice but to foul. Teske is only a 54% free throw shooter. We'll see if it turns out to be a good decision by Green.
Well, he's really improved. Excellent at hedging out against ball screens on defense and then walling up at the rim. And he's become better as a finisher as well.
Coming up, AT&T at the half. Adam Zucker and Seth Davis standing by in New York. Get you caught up around the country in the college basketball world. It's all next on AT&T at the half. What a fun start to the college basketball season it's been. Clark, it seems like we've said it every year the last couple of years. It's as wide open a field as we've had.
It's always fun to discover the undiscovered until we start playing the games. And Morgan takes advantage of plenty of space and time to splash that triple. And Indiana's showing fight. Now they just have to execute a little better.
Well, can the Hoosiers maybe cut it to single digits here before the intermission with under 90 seconds left?
You got to be solid individually at the defensive end. Good ball movement here by Michigan.
Brooks, good defense, but Teske is there, and another offensive rebound for Michigan.
Yep. But again, they space you and they have shooters out there, so you tend defensively to want to get to the shooters, and when that shot goes up on the glass, you're spread out, and it's hard sometimes to get back to box out position.
5 offensive rebounds for the Wolverines, and they've all led to points. Langford is fouled. John Beilein and his staff can't believe it, but the freshman of the line for 2.
Good job here by Durham to challenge the shot, and there you saw Langford come over. It was his guy, Teske, that he could have stayed on instead of attempting to block the shot, and there was no block out and an easy one for Teske to finish.
So here's Langford. We mentioned the career-high 28-point performance Thursday against Illinois. His 6th 20-point game of the season. Well, tonight, she's the youngest woman ever elected to Congress. Is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez an inspiring insurgent or an ill-informed newcomer? Tonight on 60 Minutes. Well, those 6 20-point games by Langford, second most among major college freshmen in the country. Only R.J. Barrett of Duke has more with 10. Archie Miller telling us he is the most coachable kid he's ever had in his collegiate head coaching career.
And is eager to get better, extremely coachable as you indicated. Obviously highly skilled offensively and growing defensively as well. I think he can be an elite defender because of his athleticism and length and want to.
Rare miss from 3 from Poole on the rebound by Smith as Indiana finally able to protect the defensive glass. Final 35 seconds. Indiana shooting 42% and right now down 14 points. This is Durham. Into the lane, bothered by the double for a moment. He'll reset to McRoberts with 7 to shoot. Here is Moore, turnaround shot, tough, and the rebound by Poole, 10 seconds. Simpson. Inside, Teske denied. but a whistle blown underneath by official DJ Karstensen.
I thought Teske might have gotten away with the step there. He looked like he
I think you're right.
galloped without a dribble. But no call, so he gets 2 free throws here.
Foul was charged to Justin Smith, his first, so 2 free throws here for Teske.
Penetration pitch. Whoa, 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 big fella. Yeah, I think we did not identify the pivot foot there. And that was a walk.
A nice little break for Michigan. They'll take it. Teske only a 54% free throw shooter. One of the more improved big men, certainly in the Big Ten, was a significant role player down the stretch for John Beilein last year. As he will sit here, the freshman David DeJulius out of Detroit. East English Village High School product into the game with 2.9 seconds. Here comes Langford. Counts if it goes. As that takes us to halftime here in Ann Arbor. John Beilein's Wolverines with some incredibly efficient offense. Also doing it at the other end of the floor as they take a 14-point lead into the halftime locker room. We'll send you to Adam Zucker in New York with AT&T at the half next. CBS Sports college basketball coverage is sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs via Sub Above. AT&T, more for your thing, that's our thing. And by State Farm, here to help life go right. Well, some of the great memories between these two teams. 1976 National Final, Indiana, Michigan. Bob Knight's Hoosiers victorious. Kent Benson would go on to be named most outstanding players. Of course, Indiana would finish that perfect season, 32-0. Clark, a couple of years before you began your collegiate career. You remember those teams, right?
I sure do. Remember watching those guys do major work in Indiana. What a team.
Take a look at our first half stats brought to you by Ford as Michigan with a 15-point lead as we are just about ready for the second half.
This is the one thing that jumped out. Only 5 turnovers for Indiana. That's a number you could live with most games. But Michigan got 11 points, so they converted on every single one of them. Took advantage of the opportunities off the miscues. But the stars of the show were 2 guys in maize and blue, Charles Matthews and Jordan Poole. They made 7 of 11 from 2-point land, 4 of 5 combined from 3-point land. And it was all good all the time for these 2. Matthews and Poole. Sounds like a law firm. But they're doing work legally between the lines for the Wolverines here in this first half.
Spiro Ditas, Clark Kellogg back with you courtside here in Ann Arbor. You know, in some ways, if you're Indiana, you have to be surprised you're only down 15 points considering the early foul trouble to Langford and Morgan. Morgan really struggled down the stretch of the first half. How impressed were you with Michigan overall?
Extremely impressed. This team defends at a high level, and they've got 2 guys that can go get plays. And because they space you, they can drive it. Very efficient first half at both ends, I thought, by Michigan.
2 freshmen in this game that we touched on at the top really haven't been a big part of the story. More so Langford, who has struggled. Michigan hasn't needed much yet, Clark, from Brazdeikis.
Yeah, exactly. And the foul trouble for Langford, a big part of his early struggles, as well as Michigan's solid defense on his drives. Brazdeikis just hasn't had many opportunities, nor has he needed them because they played so effectively through Poole and Matthews. But this guy has a tremendous all-around game. Both of these young men do. And I would expect both to be more of a factor and more impactful here in the second half. It's going to be necessary if Indiana's going to make a comeback that Langford get going in some form or fashion.
Told you about where these 2 teams sit. Michigan second in the country behind only Mike Krzyzewski and Duke. Trying to get to 15-0 for what would be only the 3rd time in program history here. A team that has won 28 of their last 29 dating back to early February of last year. How about that finish by Morgan?
That's what you call shoehorning it up and in, because he had very little room there along that baseline. Just did a nice job with his pivot foot and then made a tough shot.
Morgan just 4 of 12 shooting in the first half, now has 12 points. underneath. That is Poole. He's done it inside and he's done it out.
Well, he's so confident. You talked about that in the first half, the confidence he plays with. But that's born of the preparation and the work you do. And then you have results in games, and that momentum of confidence just continues to escalate.
Morgan is bumped by Teske in an early whistle. That'll be the second on Michigan's big man. And clearly the conversation at halftime from Archie Miller was, let's get Morgan going.
Yeah, they love to play through him, and here he just does a nice job. I mean, that's pretty decent defense by Teske. And that's what we call making a way where there doesn't appear to be a way by Juwan Morgan.
So here is Morgan, the senior out of Waynesville, Missouri, who had that breakout season last year, most improved player in the Big Ten, increased his scoring average by nearly 9 points per game, and he has had some monstrous games this season.
Yeah, he's been terrific. I think he's playing at an All-America level. And what I love about him, although he misses another free throw, is that he typically stays within himself. He just plays the game. You don't see a lot of demonstrative emotion out of him. He just keeps coming.
And Clark, he's actually added the three-point shot. Hadn't really seen that from him. Only 30% from deep last season. And so Morgan has been filling it up, 45% clip from downtown.
Yeah, he picks his spots with the three-point shot.
Here comes Durham, beautifully dropping a dime to Morgan there, and more free throws upcoming for the senior. This will be the third personal on Teske.
And you know, in our conversation with Archie Miller before the game, what did he talk about? We need to score the ball by driving it and drawing fouls. And so here in the early going of the second half, already a couple of trips to the foul line and paint scores for the Hoosiers.
So third on Teske. He has to sit here as Austin Davis checks back in. Tonight on CBS, the mystery keeps growing. New year, new friend suggestions, and new clues. Don't miss God, Friend, and Me tonight after 60 Minutes, only CBS. So excited to have you with us here in Ann Arbor. Chrysler Center, place is jumping. 13,000 for Michigan and Indiana. Spiro Ditas, Clark Kellogg, rest of our CBS crew, our producer Ken Mack, and Jim Cornell, our director.
Well, the place not jumping as much as it was a little while ago in that first half. Indiana slowly trying to shave some points off that deficit.
We saw Indiana take one on the chin earlier this season at Duke. By far their most lopsided defeat. That was late November where they lost by 21 points. This is their next big chance on the national stage to get what would be a huge win for this program under Archie Miller. And right now showing a pulse. And after they were pummeled in the first half, Morgan somehow out to Green. That's a three. And a rebound by Matthews.
Well, that's a pretty good find by Morgan to get that ball out to Green in good shooting position. The defense has picked up for Indiana, though, here in the first couple of minutes. Not getting beat off the drive as much as they did in that first half. There you see Green chesting up, keeping Poole out of the lane.
Poole's got 14 points. Into the corner to Simpson, 7 to shoot. Matthews able to regather, and the rebound by Green. Matthews thought he was fouled, and so did these Michigan fans.
No foul, just incidental contact, I thought. Same there.
It was Justin Smith unable to put it down. Here comes Simpson, a little contact against Langford. There's that shot again on the run.
Hey, you don't shoot that shot in the game unless you worked on it and mastered it. That is for real, folks. That's not a lucky shot. This kid works on that hook consistently.
You think that Simpson is their most indispensable player?
No doubt. His point of attack defense, his ability to keep the ball alive, dribbling, and how he finds people, huge parts of Michigan's success.
Durham misses on a deep three, but then Morgan is fouled as he went for the rebound.
This is old school there by Xavier Simpson. Little fella off the window, high and soft. That's as pretty as it gets. That's what we call turning back the clock a little bit there, Spiro.
Taking him way back old school with that shot. You see what Simpson has done. Terrific with the basketball in his hands. The junior out of Lima, Ohio. Up and down season last year, but he has been terrific. That is Langford from deep. And here comes Indiana now, closest that they have been. An 11-point game.
Well, I like the fight the Hoosiers have shown here, Spiro. Again, it starts defensively, though. Not getting beat as easily on the drive, helping and recovering. Tough shot by Brazdeikis.
Ignas Brazdeikis, Lithuanian-born. Family immigrated to the United States, settled initially in Chicago when he was only 2, then eventually to Canada. As Morgan off balance. Boy, what a difference in Morgan here. First 4 minutes of the second half. As Indiana back to within 11.
And they're force-feeding him too, Spiro. I mean, they're funneling that ball into him every trip.
Suddenly, Morgan's got 17 points, 7 already since the intermission. Brazdeikis from deep, and he will shoot 3.
And that's a tough foul. That's Morgan's third. But he's done a nice job in the first 4+ minutes of this second half for his Hoosiers. Good catch here in traffic. Finds a way to get it up and down. The Hoosiers not going away.
Well, next Sunday, the NFL postseason on CBS continues 1 Eastern. It will be Phillip Rivers continuing his phenomenal season, fresh off their victory today in Baltimore into Foxborough. They will take on Tom Brady and the Patriots. New England riding a 15-game winning streak at home. And you see the guys in studio, they will kick off our divisional round coverage. The NFL Today powered by Ram Trucks. At 12 Eastern time, what a huge performance by Rivers and Los Angeles earlier today. Can Rivers take that next step? Super Bowl and the Vince Lombardi Trophy, the only thing that has eluded Rivers till this point. Speaking of New England, everyone getting in, caught up in that magic carpet ride by Michigan last season. Even Tom Brady, one of Ann Arbor's favorite sons. This is the photo that he tweeted during that magical run.
Yes, sir. It's everybody excited when the alma mater is thriving and doing well and playing for a championship.
Well, here is Brazdeikis, who John Beilein wanted to come to Ann Arbor last year. Brazdeikis, Clark, didn't really feel like he was ready physically, so he stayed back for a 5th year of prep high school in the suburbs of Toronto. Really kind of a mature decision for a kid as young as he was, but boy, it's been a decision that's panned out for him.
Big time. And we had a chance to visit with Iggy yesterday, and you could see the maturity. It was pretty obvious that he wanted to step into this opportunity ready to make an impact. And he's done more than that. One of the outstanding freshmen in the country.
He's not your typical freshman. He just turned 20, and you can see the physicality just in his body. As Morgan unable to put it down.
Tough luck there.
So Archie Miller making the decision to keep Morgan on the floor, Clark, after his 3rd personal.
I don't think it was a decision that needed much thought, quite honestly. I mean, you're making headway. He's going good. That was a rally-wrecking foul that he committed on a 3-point shooter, but he's your best offensive presence at this point, so you got to leave him out there.
Matthews, terrific first half, quiet so far since. Brazdeikis, which is 3 to shoot, left it a little bit short. And the rebound by the freshman Langford. Can Indiana punch back? Here's Langford from deep. Not even close.
Yeah, that's not one you want to take. Get that ball moved a little bit and then try to drive the closeouts on ball reversal. A quick one-sided, one-dribble pull-up. Not ideal.
Here is Simpson. Once again going glass.
Now you looked at me like I had horns on my head when I said that that's a shot that he practices. Are you in the believing camp now?
I am a believer, Clark. The kid from Lima, Ohio.
Hey, it was in the scouting report.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That is officially a part of his arsenal.
Yes.
As Durham will shoot free throws. Indiana desperately trying to stay
This is so
with his
sweet to look
distance.
at, man. This is so sweet. You don't see anybody shoot this hook shot. Years ago, decades ago, guards shot this shot all the time. Then it just disappeared. It went dormant like a dinosaur. This guy has revived because it's a shot that he practices, and it's a great shot. It's almost like having a floater as a little guy. You get in there, you got to figure out a way to get it up on the glass or over the rim above bigger defenders, and it's a beautiful shot. It's hard to get to because your body is between the ball and the defender. It's a wonderfully executed shot by Xavier Simpson.
I just wish we had a camera on Clark during that sequence. He almost fell out of your chair.
No, that is so sweet. I'm a purist at heart, and you see a shot like that mastered and executed, It's a beautiful thing, man. Beautiful.
It's a great point. You just wonder why more players don't use that hook in their arsenal.
Well, it takes work to master it. That may be part of it. It's not the easiest shot to be able to perfect.
So players shuffled in and out. Brosdakis, by the way, picked up his third personal, so he takes a seat next to John Beeline. As Michigan still in control, 15-point lead. With just under 6 minutes gone by second half. Here's Poole, 14 if you've just joined us. That's a three. Too much.
Good job by McRoberts defensively there to keep him in front.
Indiana, 21st ranked team in the country. Morgan headed to the free throw line.
Boy, he's a man down there, isn't he, Spiro? My goodness, he's bringing it now. I mean, look at the angle, the solid post-up position, the active feet, the catch, the concentration, the finish, and a trip to the stripe. Boy, that's great work there. That's almost as pretty as the Xavier Simpson hook shot.
Well, if you've just joined us, Jamon Morgan looking like the kid everyone expected.
He just keeps coming, man. That's the one thing I like about him, Spiro. He just doesn't give in to whatever the circumstance in the game is. He's concentrating on the next play,
Morgan, after really struggling in the first half, with 10 of his 20 since, he has hit 3 of his 6 field goals in the half. Trying to single-handedly bring Indiana back. Simpson into the corner. This is Brooks. Shot clock down to 2. Langford, excellent defense, did not leave his feet.
Boy, the defense has been superb this half so far by Indiana. It really has been active, aggressive, helping each other.
Well, this young Indiana team around your star, Juwan Morgan, trying to show some fight. That is Green from downtown. Closest Indiana has been since the first half.
Now you've got to have Morgan if you're Indiana continue to play hard but smart. And you would think Archie Miller might be considering maybe giving him a blow as you lean into this under 12-minute timeout. But Juwan Morgan doing work.
See Morgan's line at this point, 20 points. It's amazing how quickly he has kicked his game into high gear. It looked like he was really struggling in the first half. And Clark is doing it despite playing with the foul trouble.
Yeah, and Archie Miller just got him out. Good move here. You got the media timeout coming up at under 12, so you get Morgan some rest and delay that potential 4th foul.
Clifton Moore has replaced him, the sophomore Pennsylvania native. Here comes Simpson underneath, good interior defense. And then last touch out of bounds by Indiana as the shot clock will reset.
I'll tell you, the defense is really perked up. You know, Indiana allowed some straight line drives in that first half. Uncontested, easy layups from Poole and Matthews and others. Not so here in this second half.
Saw Archie Miller, the 40-year-old second-year head coach. Terrific 6-year run in Dayton, turning around that Flyers program.
This is where you expect Poole to try to create, or Matthews.
Matthews right through the defense, and it's Johns on the putback. Boy, that talk with Beeline.
Yep.
And a message received.
Yeah, well, they knew Livers was questionable, so the coaching staff understands that Johns has to be able to contribute, and they talked to him about it yesterday, and he's giving them some solid minutes. And here comes Romeo Langford right to the rim. So Indiana, they've picked up some mojo here. You can feel it with the defensive effort.
Oh, what a play by Langford Clark. You see his skill and athletic ability on display on that drive and finish.
Well, if you're Michigan, you got to play through Matthews and Poole.
Matthews had the big first half, 16 points on the day. This is Brooks, shot clock down to 4. Brooks knifing into the paint. Langford was there, and it's a traveling violation. Well, Langford has played some terrific on-ball defense. Brandon Johns on a nasty putback, and then Langford at the other end, the super freshman for Indiana. Well, Indiana showing some fight, down by as many as 19, but they are within 9. Clark, as we revisit our AT&T Fast Analysis.
Well, Michigan got out to the big lead in part because of how well they played defensively. They have excellent perimeter defenders, so it's hard to beat them off the dribble. Ball pressure, communication, rotation, and then it leads to shooting the gap from the weak side. Alert, aggressive, and tied together is how Michigan played defensively throughout that first half. Now the script has flipped because Indiana has turned the tables with that same type of engagement and determination at the defensive end.
What a chess match between the two coaches. There's Archie Miller, the man entrusted with revitalizing this tradition-rich program in Bloomington, Indiana. And of course, John Beilein, whose greatness really finally being recognized nationally after a second run to the national championship game in the last 6 years. Langford filling it up. It's a 7-point game, and the freshman with 13 for Indiana.
And I attribute a lot of this grit that we're seeing from Indiana to Juwan Morgan. I had the isolated cam on him, and his aggressiveness offensively is obvious, but defensively, he's been just as engaged, just as active, and there's the sweeping hook again. Xavier Simpson.
Clark, he's like he's putting this display on just for you. I think he heard what you said earlier.
Tell you what, he's come up with a couple of big ones because Michigan's offense has been bogged down a bit, and he's been able, with that dribble staying alive, he's been able to find a way to get to that hook shot.
Whistle blown against Poole. Can't get enough of this little baby hook shot from Simpson.
Yeah, it's just so unique and so hard to guard because he keeps that dribble alive and he's so strong. But then he's got the nice touch with it. Beautiful.
Well, Indiana has really turned things with their offense. You saw the road a moment ago, 11-4. Hoosiers have hit 6 of their last 8 shots. Morgan from deep. Well, that would have been huge.
Got a good look at it.
As Michigan maintains a 9-point lead. We touched on Morgan's much improved 3-point stroke. Matthews, the beautiful little hesitation.
And you're seeing why I say Xavier Simpson is their most indispensable player. He made key buckets, and that was a beautiful pass in traffic, a little pocket pass to get Matthews an easy one at the rim.
First points from Matthews in the second half. This is Durham.
Good rotation by Matthews.
Brasdeikis defends on a switch. Knocked out of bounds, and Michigan corrals it. Now, we asked Archie Miller about Michigan's defense. First thing he said was terrific on-ball perimeter defenders.
Exactly. We've touched on that as well. When you don't have to help as a team defensively because you've got good on-the-ball defenders, it really helps you keep your defense packed tight.
There's Brasdeikis, who's a right-handed kid, plays mostly left-handed. Three-pointer won't go from Matthews. Rebound weak side by McRoberts.
Oh, I like the find there by Brasdeikis. Beautiful pass to a wide-open Matthews.
Hoosiers go right back to the well. Here's their star Morgan. Left-handed delivery won't go. Offensive rebound. Maintains the dribble. And look at Matthews.
Yeah, he overdid it there. He had somebody open if he would have just kicked it out right away. This is why it's so hard to come back, Spiro, when you've trailed double digits most of the way, because the team on the lead, all they need is a couple of stops and baskets to deflate you a bit.
Stamina has to be a concern.
Yep.
Indiana's first turnover, by the way, the second half. That's Brasdeikis, left it short, but he is fouled. And if it's on Morgan, that's his 4th.
Yep. And I think that was part fatigue. You know, he had those couple of trips. He really fought hard down there and didn't get any result. And was a touch out of position a little late and picked up the foul.
Looks like Morgan will sit here as Clifton Moore, their big sophomore, waits to check in at the table. So here is Brasdeikis. Ontario Scholastic Basketball MVP each of the last 2 years. As Devontae Green and Moore will both check in here. Brasdeikis 16 points in their victory here against Penn State on Thursday. Clark, one of 12 major college freshmen averaging 15 points or more on the season. Of course, Romeo Langford, he is one of the 12 as well. What a future this kid has in front of him, Brazdakis.
Yeah, he had 11 rebounds in that game as well for his first double-double. So he has a bright future indeed.
And he's kind of given them some of what they've lost in the intangible department when Mo Wagner left for the NBA. As a whistle blowing here. Teskey's been in some foul trouble, and that will be his fourth.
Let's take a look at it. Langford backing down. Yeah, he got him across the bicep. Got some ball. He got a bunch of the pumpkin, but also got the bicep as well.
Clark, the other impressive thing about Langford, putting up these numbers, 28 the other night, he's doing it without much of a three-point shot. If he can develop that outside stroke, sky's the limit for how good he can be.
And he will, because he wants to be really good, and he'll work on the shot. Shot refinement in most cases is just a matter of repetition and work. Come alive as well in the second half. He and Morgan both fighting the foul trouble in half one. Archie Miller doing a nice job of trying to shuffle him in and out a bit here. Trying to hold the fort down while Morgan sits with 4 fouls and Langford gets a break right before the media timeout. Under 8.
Langford has scored their last 6 points. It's a 10-point Michigan lead with under 8 left second half. Simpson again. Off target, rebound weak side by McRoberts. Hoosiers, a team that began the season 5-1. Confidence was high. Then they went to Duke and got hammered by the Blue Devils. But since that loss on November the 27th, they have reeled off 7 straight wins. Leading into this one today here in Ann Arbor. Shot clock down to 6. Green puts it on the deck. Whistle blown. This will be against Michigan, and it's on Matthews. And that will put Green at the free throw line for a 1-and-1 when we come back. CBS Sports college basketball coverage is sponsored by Progressive. Get slam dunk savings today. Visit progressive.com. Buick, proud partner of the NCAA. And by Buffalo Wild Wings. Try our game day menu. Boy, has it really been 30 years since Glenn Rice and Michigan had that memorable run to the NCAA National Championship, the 1-point win over Seton Hall. And there is the great Glenn Rice, one of Michigan's favorite sons, 89 MOP. Clark, hard to believe it's been 30 years.
It really is, but I'll never forget it because it was the most prolific 6-game run by an individual player in terms of points scored. There you see Charles Matthews as we went to the break. A foul was called on Matthews. Not a lot of contact, but when you put both hands on a driving player, it's part of the freedom of movement emphasis. That's a foul and has to be called.
Clark, that 89 National Championship, of course, spawning the Fab Five here with that remarkable run. Got to within 1 game of a national championship in 2013 under John Beilein and again last year. And everyone kind of wondering here in Ann Arbor, is this the team that can finally get them back to the mountaintop?
Well, time will tell, but they clearly are amongst a group that have a chance to win it all.
Boy, this kid Brandon Johns with Isaiah Livers unavailable with a back spasm injury is making his biggest contribution yet for Michigan.
Huge. And that bodes well going forward because you anticipate Livers being able to come back with the back spasms, and that's an offensive foul. I think Moore guilty of an illegal screen. But you think about Michigan, John Beilein has basically only played 7 guys in his rotation. And with Livers out, needed another body, and Johns has stepped in nicely today. There you see Livers. Yeah, he got some work in yesterday and moved around fairly well, but with back spasms, it's always touch and go in terms of when you'll get to a point of being recovered.
Livers such an integral piece with his versatility for John Beilein.
Exactly.
Just trying to be as cautious as they have to be with him. Look at Johns! excellent finish. That's Morgan turned back, and it's guess who? Johns defensively. The freshman from East Lansing doing it at both ends. Langford. Shot clock down to 5. This will be a block on Poole, and he can't believe it.
Take a look. We got Johns here, ball, and then just a little roll. And a breakdown defensively by Indiana. Everybody on the weak side hugging their guy. Justin Smith late. And then Johns doing it at the defensive end, as my partner Spiro alluded to a moment ago. Sometimes it's a matter of stepping into your opportunity, Spiro, and this young man has done just that here today.
East Lansing High School was runner-up for Michigan's Mr. Basketball to Michigan State recruit Foster Lawyer. And by far his biggest moment yet as a Wolverine. Langford hits on the front end of the 1-and-1. Oh, sometimes the past has a way of moving in with you. Don't miss the new comedy BAM! Series premiere Thursday, 9:30, 8:30 Central, only CBS. I told you we've got that two-man recruiting duel between John Beilein and Tom Izzo. Beilein showing some of his recruiting genius, went into East Lansing and kind of snatched Johns away from Michigan State.
Yeah, you're going to win some and lose some in the recruiting battles. And both of those guys do an excellent job in all facets of running their programs.
Look at Poole showing the handle, taking him to the schoolyard.
So impressed by this Michigan team. They sputtered a little bit here because of the improved defense by Indiana, but now they've turned it up another notch defensively.
Well, it looked like Langford may have partially turned an ankle as Fitzner couldn't hit, and then it's tipped up and in.
Yeah, I think you're right, Spiro. He did. He kind of came to an awkward stop and is still grimacing about that left ankle.
That tip-in credited to Justin Smith.
Yep, good work. And here's the guy that can make plays and shots.
Three-pointer from Poole won't go. Rebound Smith. Indiana still within striking distance and plenty of clock left in a 12-point game.
But the margin of error is so slim when you're trying to come back. You almost have to be perfect at this stage of the game with the double-digit deficit to overcome.
This is Green on a 3, and a rebound by Johns.
And the fact that Indiana does not have a number of prolific three-point shooters, it adds to your difficulty in trying to come back from a team of championship caliber like Michigan.
How much longer can you keep Morgan on the bench if you're Archie Miller?
Well, he's trying to hold off as we've got the under 4 coming up, and I think that's the right move.
This will be a reach-in foul against McRoberts. This is where Langford kind of turned that ankle a bit on that last sequence.
Turned it over, he sure did. And he might be able to fight through it the rest of today, but that's one that might give him some problems afterwards. But we'll see. He's still out there and may be able to run and walk it off over the next 4.5 minutes.
Clark, I'm just amazed at how many players wear those low-top sneakers. It's kind of become a trend over the last 5 years or so.
Versus the high tops for maybe a little more support. I feel you.
Here's Matthews putting it on the deck, taking on Langford. Langford turns him back, and here comes Indiana. Devontae Green was there as well. And then Langford against Brazdakis. They're the two freshman studs. Last touch by Michigan, and so Indiana will have it when we come back in a 12-point game. Well, next Saturday on the road to the Final Four on CBS, we have an SEC showdown. Ole Miss and number 17 Mississippi State. Next Sunday, a Big Ten battle. Number 8 Michigan State taking on Penn State. Penn State coming up short against Michigan here on Thursday. And how about the Big Ten? Only sent 4 teams, Clark, to the NCAA tournament last year. Fewest for the conference in 10 years, but a different story this year.
I anticipate 6 to 7 at-large teams, meaning a total of 7 or 8. Maybe more than that coming out of the Big Ten this year. It's so deep, so balanced. You've got 2 national champ contenders in the state of Michigan and Sparty and the Wolverines, and then the fresh influence. We're seeing 2 of the outstanding freshmen in the conference, but there are a number of others. Jalen Smith at Maryland, in that mix, along with Ayala. Outstanding freshman. Orturu from Minnesota. Some outstanding first-year players in this conference.
You think this is the deepest field in the Big Ten in, what,
I'd
15
say 15 years probably, yeah, in terms of the balance and the quality. Again, 2 teams that I think have a chance to get to Minneapolis, and then a number of other teams that look like Sweet 16 potential.
Here's Juwan Morgan back in the game. Goes right to the rack, kind of line drived it in with his left hand, and Morgan's got 22 points. Well, how about Indiana?
I love the fight they've shown.
Fight.
Yeah, competitive spirit and fight. Another step forward, regardless of the result. And still plenty of time to get all the way back if they can be perfect.
Indiana down by as many as 19 points if you've just joined us. Team that has won 7 straight, trying to knock off the unbeaten Michigan Wolverines, who come in at 14-0 as the #2 ranked team in the country. Foul charge to Justin Smith, that's his second.
Seeing the versatility of Brazdeikis, he also can create off the dribble. Actually worked himself into a drive off multiple dribbles there, and very competitive young man in addition to his maturity.
First free throw from the freshman, again Lithuanian born. Grew up just outside the suburbs of Toronto. Has followed up his double-double performance here from Thursday against Penn State with another solid offensive showing. 10 points, most of his damage, Clark, coming since halftime.
Yeah, and really impressed by Michigan. Again, Indiana was making a run, and the Wolverines just have not flinched.
Morgan from deep.
Man, what a half. What a half for Juwan Morgan. Big time.
25 points from Morgan, 15 coming since the intermission. And he has had some monstrous games this season for Indiana. Of course, the big one against Butler in the Crossroads Classic in Indianapolis. Unbelievable drive and finish by Poole.
Can't teach that, folks. That's got game. That's what that is.
18 for the sophomore star out of Milwaukee. That's Langford, back rim, rebound, Teskey. Just can't overstate the growth in Jordan Poole's overall game since last season.
Well, that happens here at Michigan quite a bit.
Yes, it does.
John Beilein and his staff do a remarkable job of player development. They incubate them, prepare them, teach them, develop them until they're ready. And when they're ready, they usually explode. Saw it with Karis LeVert, DJ Wilson, Mo Wagner. I mean, there are a number of players you could go down the list on, not just here under John Beilein, but at West Virginia and so forth. But he's got a very unique way of recruiting the types of players that have potential and then realizing that potential with his development mechanisms. And yeah, he's one of the very best in our game and has been for a long time.
Clark, it was just so interesting to watch him run his practice yesterday. They work on the fundamentals more so than most teams.
Right. And
really a clinic in offensive and defensive basketball.
It's not just the fundamentals, it's the terminology.
Right.
Like payday to Blue Jay, toppy floppy, the Barry Larkins. Obviously Barry Larkins, outstanding baseball player and shortstop in the major leagues, but they've got a play that's called the Barry Larkins because it's a stop short of going all the way to the rim. So it's a shortstop play, and it's called the Barry Larkins.
We both kind of perked up and looked at each other when we heard that.
Yeah, but it made sense after he gave us the breakdown and the definition.
Good to see Beilein back and in good health. Of course, underwent the double bypass surgery in August, had to miss the team's trip to Spain. But he has his Wolverines knocking on the door of #1 Duke, closing in on a 15th straight win to begin their season. Everyone's starting to make the comparisons to that 2013 Michigan team that went to the final. Has pulled a rare missed three. Who knows where this Michigan team ends up? Morgan trying to go backdoor to Langford. A little bit of a miscommunication. Well, Indiana's going to come up short, but Archie Miller and his staff have to feel good about the fight that his young team showed.
I would concur, and Michigan also has to feel good about this team's resilience and stick-to-itiveness and focus, because Indiana stepped up in a big way in the second half, and Michigan was ready to meet the challenge.
Teske. Now this place is ready to explode as Morgan tracks down the rebound. Final half minute. That's Smith on a pretty reverse finish. And a quick timeout taken by Archie Miller and Indiana. 11-point lead for Michigan on CBS.
I was trying to help you.
Game summary with 27.4 seconds to play. 11-point Michigan lead. How about 3 turnovers on the entire day for Michigan, a team that can beat you, Clark, so many different ways offensively?
Well, they've been one of the very best in the last several years of squeezing the orange. They just don't make a lot of mistakes, don't foul a lot, and they play stifling defense, and they've got a number of playmakers on the offensive end. Been a very, very impressive performance here by the Wolverines.
3 turnovers, the fewest for John Beilein in Michigan in a game this season. As Beilein and his staff with this group of young men continue to build this thing up. 33 victories, as we touched on last season, a school record.
And you know, it's early in the conference season, and both of these teams, I think, will be different. They will get better. I mean, Indiana has not had its full quiver of players all season long, and may not get 1 or 2 guys back, but you know Finney most likely will be back shortly. So these teams will continue to develop, and I think both teams in different ways showed positive progress here today.
Rob Finney, of course, the very talented freshman, still out with a concussion, 4th game in a row that he has missed, as Indiana, despite some very good fight in the second half, will come up short here in Ann Arbor. And the Michigan Wolverines improved to 15-0, the number 2 team in the country, as they have now gone 29-1 over their last 30 games. Now for Clark Kellogg, Spiro Ditas saying so long from Ann Arbor. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the 2019 Men's National Championship. Coming up next, Inside College Basketball presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll send you to Adam Zucker in New York right after this.